Hello and welcome. You're watching Money 9. I'm Sakshi Batra, and on this show, we will be talking all about markets and how do you really approach the markets at this level when the markets are at record highs. I'm joined by a very special guest. I have with me ace investor Vivek Mashrani, who's also the founder of Technofunda Investing. Thank you very much for joining on this edition of Market Masterclass. Mr. Mashrani, it's great to have you with us on Money 9 and for this very special edition of Market Masterclass. Well, the markets are at all time high levels. The rally has been a stupendous one. It has been a remarkable 1.5 years of markets moving just right ahead, crossing all barriers, all walls of worries. But I wanted to understand from you, what are you making of the kind of move that we've seen in the markets and what is really driving the benchmark indices to all time highs?
Thanks a lot, Sakshi, first of all, to have me here in this show. And if we talk about broader markets, I think if you see clearly, there was a lot of liquidity since so many months altogether after the COVID fall. All the economies started pumping money, and probably, that liquidity were driving. Of course, the earnings were also coming in pockets. So, of course, there is the reason behind this rally also, but if you see, there is some shift that is happening. Of late, last few months, we saw that small cap and mid cap had rallied versus all the large caps, and now that shift has started to get evident where money is probably moving to large cap from the pockets of small cap and mid cap. So that is the broader thing which is clearly visible.
Right. But would you say that markets have actually run ahead of fundamentals? Because there are some increasing concerns of the elevated valuations that they are trading at right now. And do you see any signs of a correction going forward from here?
Yeah, so I think see, a market will always run ahead of earnings because it's a leading indicator, and we have seen that in pharma pockets when market rallied in those pockets last year, and the earnings started coming much later after a couple of quarters.
Hmm.
So the earnings are coming in pockets. Of course, yes, there is froth in different pockets of markets. There are some mid caps and small caps which are looking slightly stretched in terms of valuation, and that pretty much happens. We have seen that in 2017 also, and even if there is a correction, it will be, I think, healthy correction. It's much needed because there has been one way movement since many months now.
Yeah, absolutely. Also, I wanted to understand, but there are these increasing worries of the kind of market valuations that we are at. The kind of investor frenzy that we are seeing at this point in time, be it in the primary market space or in the secondary market space. Do you see this as a red flag? Because some experts also say that whenever there is a record high participation from retail investors or there's a heightened, IPO activity, that actually indicates a peaking out of the bull run.
Yeah, that's true. So most of the times that's like recurring signals when IPOs get oversubscribed. And again, there are stages, initially there'll be great companies which will be coming with a higher valuation. Then you will see mediocre companies coming with a higher valuation. And then everything, whatever crap company comes in, they get oversubscribed. So I think probably we are in that first stage where there are decent companies which are coming in. If you see Zomato and a lot
Yeah.
other companies which came in, the quality of the companies are not bad. It's like quite decent companies which are coming up. And
Mhm.
another reason, like work from home is there, so a lot of people are idle at home, and they want to do something. A lot of people have lost their jobs. A lot of businesses have a lot of time where they can spend in markets. So I think that is also driving some bit of fraud. But I think you're right in terms of these signs. I think these are like first indications which we are seeing. How far it can get going, we don't know, but yeah, clearly those green shoots of those signs are started to emerge.
Right. And I did see that, on your Twitter feed, you mentioned some time ago that, do you see a March 2020 like correction coming in and are investors prepared for it? What is your sense of the same?
Yeah, so I think see March 2020 kind of fall might not come, but that is again was a nudge to investors that you need to be prepared all the time, and you should have your favorite watch list just in case correction happens. Even if 5-10% correction happens, if you have that kind of watch list ready, your mind is like decluttered. You know exactly what you need to do, and you don't need to depend on others to ask at that point of time. And
Yeah.
generally, the window is very small. Even if you see last March fall, the window was like 15-20 days. If we don't have cash at that point of time, it's very difficult to deploy, and we need to have that ideas also ready.
Yeah, absolutely. And in fact, taking this forward, so far in the last 1.5 years, in fact, the entire market has had this kind of a upliftment, whether it is quality stocks or non-quality stocks. And probably everybody has made money wherever they were, some kind of a money that, even because we've seen penny stocks rising up so high, and which is why in the last 10 or training sessions, we have seen the smaller hands or the weaker hands getting thrown off. I wanted to ask you, at this point in time, would you advise investors to rejig their portfolios? And if at all it is time to do that, how should one do that?
See, again, I'll give from my perspective because I'm not authorized to give advice to others. But basically, if I would have been in this place, I would think of rotation if I'm in a different pocket where the growth is not coming or tailwinds are not there. Of course, if the homework is done right, I don't think we need to churn our portfolio too much. And at the same time, this is something which I follow personally, that when you create a portfolio itself, it need not be focused into one pocket. It need not be into everything into mid cap or micro cap or small cap. When you are doing that portfolio construction, you need to have that diversification, that some pocket goes to large cap, some pockets to mid cap, some into small cap, and that again, of course, should align with the risk profile. But if you have done that homework, I think there is nothing much to worry about.
Okay, understood. But help, all our viewers who are perhaps first-time investors looking to you to learn, the kind of investing strategy that perhaps you would have, and help them understand what is your stock picking strategy in the last 1.5 years. What is the kind of selection that you've done? Have you focused on some themes, particular sectors, or inherent stocks that have their own growth story to be unfolded? And how do you spot multi-baggers, if at all you could suggest?
Yeah, so I've done a detailed podcast also on finding great businesses, but I'll summarize here. So basically, see, the idea I follow is a core satellite approach. So core is where you basically identify decent compounders which can grow for a long period of time, and 30% kind of portfolio is in satellite, which is more like identifying new winners, emerging companies which can turn out to be future winners. Now, if you think about the core portfolio, it's more like companies which can compound over a long period of time. So there I look for sectors which are into mega trend. It could be something like technology, it could be something like financials, within financials, insurance space, AMC space, it could be healthcare or diagnostic space, right? So where you see structurally that the runway is very, very long, you first, identify those kind of sectors. And within those sectors, if you can find companies which can compound over a long period of time, and typical signs you can look for is very high operating margins coupled with good growth at earnings level. So I look for like 15 to 20% minimum earnings growth. And then if you have a combination of margin expansion, nothing like it, right? So the different pointers again, I'm very finicky about finding out debt-free companies. I don't prefer too much of debt in a company. So all those are traits in the core portfolio. Satellite is more where I start with price volume action, the sector rotations that are happening, and then if it works out, I scale up those positions.
Right. And at the markets which are already at this kind of a lifetime high, is it still possible to generate alpha for your portfolios at this point?
Yeah, so that's where the satellite portfolio comes into the play, right? So satellite
Hmm.
is where basically, something new is coming up, and there is just the rotation coming up. So say, for example, something where demerger has happened and there is some value getting there, you will find it in
Yeah.
the price volume action, or a new sector which is coming up and emerging. Like recently, if you see real estate and hotels and all those started
Right.
picking up because that COVID fear is somehow subsiding. So earlier, when the rally started, they did not participate, even textile for that matter, and there also some movement is coming, right? So there you basically generate alpha. At the same time, if the fall happens, that creates the cash hedge for you. So it's like best of both worlds kind of, diversification which I'm doing in the portfolio level.
Absolutely. And we have been talking about IPOs. I want to take that point forward too, because the kind of frenzy that we've seen in 2021 is rarely seen before, especially when we talk about, say, the first half, we've already seen about 70,000 odd crore rupees being raised by 38 IPOs. And this
Yeah.
kind of subscriptions are like, almost crazy. there's a fight between each IPO that's coming up, which is in varied sectors. The new age internet IPOs, the traditional ones, all of them are coming up. I wanted to understand from you, what would you tell investors, viewers looking at you, what is the best way to approach this IPO space in primary markets? Is it fair enough to go ahead for every IPO that goes, public at this point in time, just in the hope of catching the wave that is in the bull market, or you should be really very sure about the companies that you are going for?
Right. So, of course, when it comes to investing, we need to be aware about where we are getting into, right? So, it could be IPO or it could be direct public equity, or even it's like you are buying a home, you should know, right, what is in outside your window, what is your neighbor doing, and, how is the building and where the pipeline is there, whether water is coming or not, right? So, same thing, I think it applies in investing also. And the idea is, if you are investing in IPO first, at least from my perspective, what I would do is I'll think whether I'm in for a short term gains or a long term gains, because most of the people who are entering right now, they just want to get the listing gains, and that is fair enough. Nothing wrong with it, because they see that money can multiply, the risk reward is high. If it falls, it might fall 20-30%, and if it works out, it can become double also, right? So the risk reward is kind of working in their favor, and that's the reason a lot of investors comes in. So if they are just doing for that, they need some basic checks about the company. Of overall it's fine, and you see that listing gains coming in, that's perfectly fine. But if you are really, wanting to put money for a slightly longish period of time, you want to, ride that company for a longer time, more than 6 months, 1 year, then definitely you need to do much more homework when it comes to analyzing the company. And the starting point for any companies which are coming with IPO is a DRHP, right? So that's the draft red herring prospectus, and then finally they have a red herring prospectus which comes out. So at least they should look the company overview, financials, what industry is doing, ask some people who are knowledgeable. They should get in touch with their financial advisor also, and then take a informed decision.
Okay, understood that. A whole lot of questions have been pointed at the kind of overvaluation that Zomato perhaps, commanded at this point, because looking at the losses on the books and no trajectory of when the company is looking at turning profitable, because there is a worry on the cash burn, which will continue for some more time as well. In these new age companies, which most of them, which are coming up, and we'll be seeing many more coming up, like a Paytm or a Policy Bazaar, and most of them do have these concerns. So going forward from here as well, would you say that it is fair to put the valuation bit aside and look at the kind of new prospect that this company has, and have some other parameter to judge these kind of new companies instead of the traditional valuation part?
Right. So again, see, these are typical companies which are more called as platform businesses, and these are new age businesses, right? So if you think about these companies, these are typically a platforms, right? So they don't own any restaurants, similar to Airbnb, which doesn't own a hotel or anything. Same way, Uber doesn't own a car. And if you think about these kind of businesses, if they are able to scale, and that's the punchline, that they should be able to scale and they should be able to sustain that competitive advantage, then this kind of businesses becomes winner takes it all. So basically
Yeah.
they will command monopoly within the market, just because they've achieved that scale. They have network effects in place, and again, network effect is like very simple concept. A lot of people get confused, but it's basically when a new customer in the ecosystem adds more value. So say for example, you are checking a restaurant on Zomato and you have already 500 reviews, you will be much more beneficial as a customer versus any new app where there are no reviews, right? So you will tend to come to Zomato again and again, and
Yes.
as you keep coming again and again, you will put more and more reviews, right? So it's kind of cyclical, and then you outpass the competition. So that is what happens with these businesses, and the cash burns which they do is basically to get that kind of first mover advantage and scale very fast before the competition catches up. And the beauty about these businesses are, once you have created the platform, then pretty much you can sell anything. Tomorrow if they want to go into grocery, and I think they've also
Yes.
started doing in pockets, then you can sell grocery on it. Tomorrow, a day after, you want to start medicine distribution, you can do medicine distribution. If you want to do some logistics, you can do logistics, right? And everybody has done it. Even if you think about Facebook, initially it started with a social media app, then they
Yes.
had advertisers on the platform. Then they had gaming on the platform. Now they have a blog on the platform, right? So they can create a lot of optionalities, and that is why market sees them from a different angle. And of course, there is a scarcity premium. If you are a public investor, you are not a private equity. If you want to invest in these kind of businesses, there are very few options in Indian market, right? So there are like handful of companies. I had done a YouTube video also on platform businesses. Like 8 to 10 major businesses are there, right? But
Right.
apart from that, there is scarcity. So that also will drive the valuation in a way.
Understood that. There's one theme that has become very popular after the second wave has been peaking out from the time, and that is the unlock trade. And
Yeah.
everybody has been talking about it. There is a fight between pizzas, burgers, also like, flights, and then there is a hotel. Your thought in the entire space and how are you approaching it? Like, would you say that this is a theme that could be traced for a long time, or is it just like momentary?
I think in my personal view, it's just like that, revenge demand that is picking up. People have not gone out from so long, and even I have been sitting at home since so long. So, of course, that
Where do
tendency
you
will
want
be
to
there.
go first when things get okay? I want to know that first.
Yeah, yeah. So I'm planning some trips. Maybe one of my friend is in Kashmir. He's also been calling me. If cold doesn't come very soon, then probably that, or maybe at least Goa, which is something very near.
Yes.
But yeah, let's see. Hope for the best. But that mindset has started shifting. That 2 years people have been sitting almost at home, and they want to just get out and have fun. So I
Right.
think it's pent up demand which will pick up. But again, the idea is to see the structural trending sector, so which might have been affected for a short period of time, but structurally they are good. That should be the ideal pocket in my view.
All right. And lastly, I have to ask you for all those millennial investors who've entered in the last 1.5 years, these over 1 crore demat accounts, 1.5 crore demat accounts that have opened. Uh, of course, there is a lot of kind of inquisitiveness among these millennials who are entering the markets for the very first time, and rightly so, because every day in news you are hearing about lifetime highs of the markets, and it is likely they're likely to feel this FOMO factor, fear of missing out, and that's why they're entering this space just to try their hands out, which is not at all a bad thing. But what are the steps that they have to be careful to when they're dealing with markets so that they don't lose too much of the capital as well? What would you say as the first few steps that they mandatorily have to follow as and when they begin, so that they can have a successful long-term journey with investments in equities?
Super. Thanks for asking this because I have made a lot of mistakes when I started off my journey when I was in 20s. But from those lessons, I would say first thing is don't speculate. So don't do intraday, don't do F&O too much if you don't understanding that space. Go into more of an investing thing if you can understand the companies. If not, you should definitely spend some time learning about business models, how companies get valued, what are the financial statements. Again, basics. If you understand the broader perspective, you will get an idea what you are getting into. Second is follow asset allocation, right? So you don't need to put everything into equity. Of course, they are young, they are starting off, they don't have too much of risk. Probably they have not got married and they don't have too much of responsibilities. But still, that asset allocation is very important. So you need to have funds into fixed income. You need to have some into equities, some into cash. So if that asset allocation is followed, then at least they are protected at a broader level. And focus on saving aggressively rather than speculating. So a lot of people, what they do is because they want to fund their lifestyle. They want to go to party, they want to eat good food every day, and they want to have nice clothes. Nothing wrong about it, but just to fund that, they take a shelter from market, they go into F&O intraday, and that lure of fast money in fact takes away all the money, and whatever pizza they might be eating, they need to do something else, right? So they'll not
True.
be able to. So that is where just focus on aggressive savings rather than just going after fast money. That is something which I would do if I'm in their place. Yeah.
The last line is really important. Don't go after fast money, because this is a generation that is making, that it wants to make quick buck, and they do believe that, equities could be a means of making that quick buck, looking at the kind of one day listing gains of the new companies that are entering in for sure. I'm sure all this advice will be very, very beneficial for all of them. I really want to thank you, Mr. Mashrani, for speaking with us and sharing insights on the markets and the various segments that we've spoken about. Hope to have you back very soon on another
Thank
edition
you
of
so
Market
much.
Class. Thank you
Thank
so
you so
much.
much, Sakshi. Thank you.
All right, and with that, we wrap up this edition of Market Masterclass for you. We'll keep getting you all the expert views just like this so that you can understand much more about markets in a very easy manner and just know what is the right thing to do when you approach markets for the first time with your investments so that you can protect your capital and also grow that in the markets too. Thank you very much for tuning in onto this one.